This episode of The Cellar Door is proudly brought to you by That's Amore Cheese. Visit that'samorecheese.com.au to check out their huge range of gourmet cheeses. And don't forget to follow them on Facebook.
Hello and welcome to Cellar Door. My name's Nicolette and I am back on the Mornington Peninsula. Today I have the esteemed pleasure of going to not one but two wineries. First up at Trofeo Estate, I am going to learn how to ferment wine in terracotta pots, and then at Ocean's 8 I am going deep underground into a barrel room that is gravity fed. Let's go. Jim, you are the owner here at Trofeo Estate. Tell me a little bit about this beautiful estate that you own.
Well, obviously we're set here in the beautiful Mornington Peninsula. The building we're in has been here since the early 1930s and started life as an old passion fruit cannery, which is quite unique, and I think it's the only surviving one, certainly in the area. It's had quite an amazing life. It's lived through a couple of big bushfires and the Second World War. The company that was running the place went broke. It became a dairy at one stage.
Was it a toy factory?
Toy factory at another point in its life. And then we came along about 5 years ago and fully renovated the place and brought the vines back to life. And here we are.
And how were you originally introduced to the idea of using terracotta to ferment wine?
Well, that came as it was a bit of a funny story. I was doing a university course on winemaking and viticulture, and one of our projects was to look at different ways of fermenting wine, and I came across terracotta in my research. Mm-hmm. So the more I got into it, the more interested I became, and I realised that terracotta gave you the opportunity to have wine that was closer to being just fruit. It's also a unique item that makes us stand apart from the other wineries. Using the terracotta gives us an opportunity to put our own twist on the wines.
Absolutely. And the terracotta pots, the amphora themselves, they're not something that are produced locally though, are they?
No, that took a bit of hunting, but eventually I found a small company in Brunetta, which is just outside of Florence, and they still hand make amphora the way it was done 2,000 years ago, and so they themselves were just looking at getting some interest from wine producers, modern wine producers. So that was a good, we came along at the right time, and away we went.
And have you had the honour of presenting those amphora makers with a bottle of your...
Several times.
Yes.
Yeah, and they've been really happy with it. I must say, we've attended several terracotta wine shows in Brunetta, and the wines have been really well received.
So aside from having once been a passion fruit cannery, is there anything else about the Trofeo Estate that I suppose separates you from the rest?
Well, when we set it up, we really wanted to do things differently. My wife and I have always been passionate about organic and biodynamic produce. So we don't use inorganic phosphates for fertilisers, etc. We follow some of the organic principles and some of the biodynamic principles as they pertain to grape growing. So our wines don't have pesticides and herbicides and things floating around in them. We try to keep the grapes as natural as possible.
So Richard, you are the winemaker here at Trofeo Estate. Now, when I come into this room, I can kind of be forgiven for thinking we've stepped into the gardening department at Bunnings. There's a lot of terracotta.
Slightly more high class than Bunnings though.
Yes, of course. I guess more it's just the sheer size. I feel incredibly dwarfed by the number of, can I call them pots?
You can, we prefer amphora.
Amphora?
Yep.
Okay, now this isn't kind of what we'd come to expect from winemaking. I've never seen an amphora before.
Correct. Traditionally you'd see barrels in a room like this, and we've gone with terracotta amphora. Purely because we feel that it represents the fruit expression from the vine and the different varieties of grapes and clones that we harvest. And it doesn't impart any flavours onto the wine, but it allows for maturation similar to a barrel. So oxygen will pass through into the wine.
So it kind of breathes.
It does breathe, and it helps age it.
Right. So whereas a barrel would impart flavour from the timber itself, the oak.
Would, and as the barrel ages, it imparts less flavour, but that's what you get. You get the oak and the tannin in the wine.
And I'm not completely ignorant. Not many people are doing this, correct?
We're definitely the biggest in Australia, I know that, and I believe the Southern Hemisphere. And there's a few other people around Australia doing it and experimenting with different types of aging vessels. Concrete and is another one that people are looking at quite a bit more these days, alongside terracotta amphoras and
But it's
barrels.
not a new thing.
No, it's certainly not. It dates back quite a while to very ancient times, when they had nothing else to put the wine in, so they would put it into terracotta or clay.
So in the process of fermenting the wine in the amphora, aside from putting it in the amphora, is there anything different that you might do to affect the taste, or?
So our white wine gets fermented in amphora, and then our red wine gets fermented in other tanks and then gets placed to age in the amphora. We don't have to do a lot to it because there is no flavour that comes from the terracotta. So it is just straight in there, and it breathes quite well. We don't lose as much wine over the time through evaporation, which can happen with barrels.
So then when I sit down and have a glass of wine, I'm going to taste all those pure flavours rather than kind of tasting perhaps sulphur or anything else that might normally get in there.
Correct. You won't have any other flavours that are imparted on it, which mainly comes from the oak.
How do you find that the grapes that are produced here in the Mornington Peninsula, which are beautiful, and we've got beautiful vintages, how do you find that they benefit from being kind of fermented in this manner?
I think we're a cool climate here, and we benefit quite a bit from the maritime breezes. So we have a lot of fresh fruit flavours in our wine, and I think that's just highlighted by the use of the amphora.
Laurie, can you please tell me all about this Chardonnay that I hear is changing people's minds about Chardonnay?
This is the I Can't Believe It's Chardonnay. So this is our 2015 Chardonnay, and this has been fermented and matured within the terracotta. It's a combination of wild and inoculated yeast, but the beautiful thing about this Chardonnay is it really explains why it is, or justifies, I suppose, the use of terracotta in the winemaking procedure. And we all know it to be this buttery attribute in Chardonnay. General public associate that to be with wood, and up until I've had terracotta Chardonnay, so have I. So I've always thought that it's the wood and oak that imparts that creamy characteristic, because you don't see them in unwooded Chardonnays. No. But it turns out it's not. It's actually the secondary fermentation. So we get all of the loveliness that is a Chardonnay without any of the wood flavour.
Can I
And
try
that's
some?
what, please, cheers.
Cheers. It doesn't taste like Chardonnay.
No, it's delicious.
It's
though, isn't it?
beautiful. It's so creamy.
And it's still quite light, but lots of delicate flavours going on there. So it's quite complex, but nothing's really overwhelming.
No. To me, so far, what stood out about Trofeo is its high impact wines with with low impact on the environment. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to be minimal, and the entire estate is run like that, regardless of what the aspect that we're looking at. We also grow a lot of our own produce, which is all grown, in accordance with biological techniques. So we try to deliver in the restaurant, basically on the plate, something that resembles the entire impacts of the estate, and therefore enhance the wine. So it's not just two different products, it's all about the entire process. So our chefs source a lot of their stuff locally, and we use, obviously free range animals and organic vegetables where we can. We're working really closely with a lot of biodynamic producers such as Mock Orchards, which is up in Red Hill, and they make amazing apple cider and apple juice, and also freeze-dried fruits. We use some different concentrates and vinegars, which are beautiful. We also use biodynamic milk, so it's all full flavoured. We're working with All Press in town for their organic coffee. So it's about providing, we believe that if you start with a great primary product, which is exactly the theory that we have in the vineyard, you will always get a better product at the end. Because as we say, you can only make good wine from good grapes. You can make bad wine from good grapes, but you can't make good wine from bad fruit.
So what you're saying is I'm going to come down here, have an incredible lunch, and then fill up the back of my hatchback with a lot of wine because I'm going to want to continue this experience.
Absolutely, and you're going to drive a hatchback, so it's not so many carbon emissions as
Exactly
well.
right.
More sustainable
Thank you.
traffic
There you
down
go.
there.
Well, I'll work towards owning a Tesla.
That's Amore, hey, that's Amore for you.
Giorgio from That's Amore Cheese. Welcome back to Cellar Door.
Hi, George. Thank
Hello.
you.
Now, you're a bit of a romantic, I think.
I tried to.
You try to be.
Yeah,
And we
I
have
tried
a
to
bit
not get in trouble. Yeah.
We have a bit of a romantic cheese.
This one, I think, is why this is romantic. This one is called chili cacotta. Practically, is a fresh cow's milk cheese with a chili flake. Why it can be romantic? Because the chili, it can give you a little bit of bit of spice. Plus, it's a fresh, it's a light cheese. It's fantastic to have it with a glass of wine or have it on your picnic. Also, it's very nice. Also, you can cook with that. I mean, it's
you can
easy
cook
to
this
do.
one?
Yeah, we're normally doing with a little flat bread on the fry pan.
Beautiful.
And melting. It's fantastic. Very delicious. Actually, I have to say. Lots of people in Australia knows that this variety of cheese like a fresh pecorino.
Ah, sure.
But it's not the correct name. The fresh pecorino should be called pecorino when it's a sheep milk. That means pecora. Pecora is a sheep.
It's sheep.
So pecorino is not the correct name for this cheese. The correct name should be cacotta. That's why. This is one of the variety. We have the chili, we have the plain, the pepper, and the buffalo cacotta.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And the buffalo is made from buffalo milk?
From buffalo milk, yeah, correct. So this one, the chili flake, they go through, it's fantastic color, combination of color.
Yeah, beautiful.
And nice and tasty.
So you can cook with it, you could have it on a picnic.
You can have it like this. Of course, it's not the basic kids-friendly cheese, but it's fantastic and romantic, like you said.
Lovely. Oh, salute.
Salud.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and thanks for giving the opportunity to talk about this fantastic cheese, the chili cacotta.
Yeah, beautiful. We're going to head to the next vineyard. Thanks,
Ciao.
Giorgio. Ciao.
Amore, hey, that's Amore for you.
Michael, thank you so much for having me
great to have you here.
at the beautiful Ocean 8. There's only really one place in Victoria where you can get this kind of vista, and that's the Mornington Peninsula.
It's a pretty special region, so yeah, a lot of beautiful setups down here.
So tell me about why you decided to make wine on the Mornington Peninsula.
It's a family business, so it was my parents that bought the property down here. At that time, our family we decided to go hell for leather in the wine industry and try and make some of the best Pinot Noir and Chardonnay on the peninsula. So while we were developing this site with the beautiful gardens and the home and the stable area here, we bought another site which had 100 acres, and we planted that out to 70 acres of Pinot and Chardonnay. With the idea of trying to do the best quality we could. So we did everything down to a T to make sure we had all the detail right. That brand was called Kuyong, and it's a very well-regarded brand, and they make beautiful wines. And then another producer on the peninsula came in and purchased it off my family, off mum and dad. And I was just getting into the business at that time, so I was working as a selling hand and in the vineyard and in the winery. So I was pretty upset with Dad when he sold it, and he said, well, why don't we go straight back into the wine business? And we had this property. We had the 3 acres on this property, so we planted out another 6 acres. And that's how Ocean 8 came about. We had the existing stable area, which wasn't being used for horses. We thought it would be, it wasn't. So we gutted those out and put this beautiful little boutique winery into the stable area. And then we're away. And then, so for the last sort of 12 years, Ocean 8's been becoming established. We've bought some more vineyard. So we've got 27 acres of vineyard now. So we're still a very small producer. Our total production's 5,000 to 6,000 cases. But with the same idea, we're all about quality. We want to make the best wines that we can.
Exactly, one man's small is another man's limited edition.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's how I perceive it.
Okay, great.
So tell me about the name Ocean 8. How does that fit in? How did that come about? It's not the family name.
Yeah, well, it's I think deep down, Dad's probably taken the mickey out of me a little bit with the movies and whatnot. But
you don't fancy yourself as the George Gayler of winemaking?
Not really. No, more Matt Damon maybe.
Oh right, okay. But, with the prosthetics.
Yeah. But so we wanted a name that stands out. But we love our golf, and the peninsula is really well known for the beaches, for the golf courses, and also the winery. So it's a name that encompasses all those three. It's what we think is one of the hardest golf holes down here, the 8th hole on the Ocean course at the National Golf Club. It's a beautiful hole. But it's a name that also stands out. It's a bit trendy, it's memorable, it's not just a family name, it's something a bit more exciting. And it stands out in your mind a bit, so it looks good on a wine list.
So tell us about the wines that you make here. We talked about the peninsula obviously is famous for its beautiful...
Yes, Pinot Noir. Yeah. So the peninsula, it's a cool region. It's a cool maritime region.
You say that as the sun is blazing down on our back
I'm
in the
sweating.
middle of summer.
Yeah, the peninsula is really well known for Pinot Noir, and Pinot Noir is a variety. It's very hard to grow. It needs very particular climatic conditions to grow it. So there's very few places in the world where you can grow it, so we're quite lucky. And there's a dress circle around Melbourne, the Yarra Valley, Bellarine Peninsula, Mornington, that can grow Pinot Noir quite well. With Pinot Noir, the grape's got a really thin skin. So what that means is that if you have excessive heat, that skin will shrivel really quickly. If you have excessive rain, it'll swell up and burst, and then you've got lots of disease, pressure and whatnot. So that's what makes it a very particular grape. And obviously the great wines of Burgundy, nice cool region there, which we like to think we're closing the gap on those beautiful Burgundy wines.
I do not doubt it for a second. So not only do I have the pleasure of coming down here to the farm and seeing the farm and the beautiful roses, but I would also have the opportunity to talk to you.
Maybe. Maybe if I'm in the mood.
If you're in the mood.
No, I'm here most of the time, but We do like to show off the winery, so you don't just come down and have a taste. You can actually come down and see the barrel room and see a few more behind the scenes of what we do in the winery.
And of course the benefit of the barrel room would be on a day like today when the sun is blazing.
Absolutely.
It's quite temperate down there, it'd be quite nice.
Be beautiful.
Yes.
We should go down there now.
Sweet, really.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Let's go and check it out.
Segue.
Michael, I'm in the barrel room and this is underground.
We're underground
correct?
right now. That's
so
right, yeah.
something I can only experience if I decide to come on down to Ocean 8.
Yeah, there's very few wineries that have an underground barrel room. But it's you can feel the temperature. It's 18 degrees.
It's beautiful.
Nice and cool, and we're in a 30-degree day upstairs.
Yeah.
So it's terrific for the wines. It keeps the wines at that constant temperature. So again, great for quality, which is what we're really trying to achieve.
So why is the barrel room underground, aside from the temperature?
Well, the other thing is when the fruit comes in, we put it in the press and then we press the juice and we can run it by gravity straight down into the barrels. So you can see the barrels here. We run a hose from the press, so there's no pumping and it just bleeds down into the barrels and then we do the fermentation down here.
Is that a long process?
It's slow, but it's great for quality.
Yeah.
So it's well worth doing it. It adds a lot of quality to the wines. And what we have here behind us is some Pinot Green barrel. So if you'd like, we can have a taste straight out.
Straight from the barrel.
Straight from the barrel, yeah.
And this apparatus is called a...
I call it a wine thief, but
It's my nickname at uni. I've done straight out of the box before.
Oh, the bag in the box, yeah.
But never out of straight out of the barrel.
That's not really stealing though.
No. Well, it is. There are things go missing, don't they? Memories. All right. So what am I now? How old is this one?
So this has been in barrel for 10 months, and I'm about to pull it out to get it ready for bottling. So it's been aging for 10 months, and it's nearly ready to go. You'll taste it's almost tastes almost palate ready.
Okay. Yeah. And what flavours am I looking for?
So this is Pinot Gris. So with Pinot Gris, you almost want sort of rose water, Turkish delight type characters.
Oh, yeah, good. I'm all about that. Yeah.
It's ready to go, I think.
It is ready to go.
Yeah.
And you're going to make people wait another 2 months before they can drink this?
Maybe another 6 months.
All right.
Might have a bit of bottle shock, so we'll give it a little bit longer, and then
What's bottle shock?
Straight after bottling, the wines can lose a lot of the flavours and characters that they have just before they go into bottle. It's a strange phenomenon, but it can take 6 to 8 weeks for it to overcome that and then come back to how we're tasting it here.
Wow, but it comes good. So it goes through a period of stage fright.
It does.
It's not quite ready to leave the womb.
That's right.
Yeah. And then
it's a bit shocked. Yeah, it gets a bit shocked.
But at least it comes good
it does,
in the end. Right, 6 months.
6 months.
It's worth the wait, I tell you what. I'm happy to just take the barrel now. So Pinot Gris is kind of on trend, is that right?
Yeah. So when we first started producing Pinot Gris, I made a tiny amount. I made 200 cases, and this was probably 12 to 15 years ago. So there wasn't a big market for it, and then over the last 10 years, there's been a real explosion in its popularity, and I think that's really off the back of all these Asian-inspired restaurants and cuisines that have really come into the Melbourne and the Sydney wine scene and wine and food scene.
Yeah.
So if you look at these Asian-influenced dishes, there's very few wines that actually match well with these styles of foods. But Pinot Gris, it's got this oily character and it's got a nice clean finish, which actually goes really well with a bit of heat and spice.
So we're not turning to beer like we would ordinarily.
Yeah, well, usually a beer would be fantastic, but this is one of the few varieties that goes really well with those foods. So you go to restaurants like, Adam De Silva does fantastic food at Tonka and Coda, and he'd have 4 or 5 Pinot Gris on his menu because it is such a good variety with his food styles.
I don't get to keep this though, do I?
We've got to put it back in the barrel, so chuck it back in the barrel.
Send it back? Yep. This is like Rex Hunt's equivalent to kissing a fish and then putting it back into the ocean?
Exactly.
Why do we do that? Why do I give it back onto the barrel?
If any oxygen gets into the barrel, it spoils the wine really quickly, so we have to make sure that it's right all the way up to the top throughout the whole year.
So even with a little taste like that, it can still get in and spoil the wine.
Okay, I do not want to be held responsible for spoiling the wine at Ocean's 8. So you guys are affiliated with a number of restaurants, so you sell to a fair few restaurants, but the only opportunity for me really to come and taste these limited edition wines and buy them would be directly from you.
Yeah, we're not a large producer. We make 5,000 to 6,000 cases a year, so we're a small producer, and we sell mainly through the top restaurants around Australia. So the Cellar Door is a great point if you're ever on the peninsula. Come down. We're quite hard to find, but it's well worth finding us, and you can try the whole range of wines.
Absolutely, and I'll know now every time I see Ocean 8 on a menu that it is not a film. It is indeed the wine I should be buying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me on Cellar Door. I tell you what, if you are not planning a trip down to the Mornington Peninsula wineries, then you're not living your best life. We'll catch you next time.